Hello everyone, my name is Smita. Welcome to my channel Bumblebee. Hope everyone is doing well. Today I'm excited to share with you all the process of creating a beautiful iris you see on the screen using texture paste. Without further ado, let's get started. So here I have taken a white palette to mix my colors in, palette knife, a wooden tile. This tile is again 9 by 9 inches. Some texture paste for the background. The idea is to cover the whole background evenly with this white texture paste like we do in all our tiles. This is the basic preparation that we do and the idea is to just cover the whole thing evenly, not leaving any spot brown. So this is what we're trying to do here. So once our background is ready, I take some ash color and I'm applying it in the direction of the iris. So this I'm trying to apply vertically onto the tile in the direction where the iris I'm going to make. You'll see it soon. So it's just to give a shade. It is your personal preference what you want to do here, and as per your choice, just decorate the background. And here we are ready with the tile to put our flowers on. So I've made two kind of arrangements for the iris in my diary, as you can see here. One has a big iris with stems and leaves, a small small buds, and the other one is tilting towards the right with half open flower as well. So if you do this, it gives you a good idea where to place your leaves and petals onto the tile. Just draw this as per your convenience, a rough sketch, and I'll just draw very vaguely where the leaves and the stems are coming, and that's what I'm doing here. So my sketch is ready here, and once our sketch is ready, we are ready to make our first flower on this tile. So I've taken some olive green plaster and a blue plaster. I'm going to mix these two to make our first bud. Now this bud has 4 petals to it, so I'm making the first petal here. I'm mixing these two colors, and the whole iris is done using fan petals. So I begin by picking up the plaster in my palette knife. First I'll make a base by picking the plaster on both sides of the palette knife, and then I will make a fan petal curling towards the left. So I pick up the plaster so that the leaf is bending towards the left. Once I'm happy with the shape and size of this leaf, I place it on my palette and then transfer it onto the tile. See, don't be afraid to make the petal again. If you're not happy with how the petal has turned out and how it is showing on your tile, make the petal again. I'm using another line knife, palette knife. It's more pointed, as you see, and more long to make the fan petal again. So I'm making the petal again, and let's see how this turns out. Once I'm happy with the petal, I'll place it onto the main tile. Now let's take some more plaster in purple and light green. Now I am making the second petal for this bud that I'm trying to make. I have mixed some green, purple, white to give it some shade variations. And I will again make a fan petal using these two plasters, giving them some gradient of shades. Just regularly, I make my base first by picking the plaster on both sides of the palette knife, and then I'm going to pick the plaster on the top half of my knife so that I get a fan shape. So just pick the plaster to the width that you want your fan petal to be. And once you are happy with how the petal is looking, I will put it on my palette so that I can transfer this second leaf on the tile. Once the petal is on the tile, if you feel it's too long, just take out a little bit at the bottom and then shape it. Give it a shape so that it curls and it feels the edge of the petal is going under. Make sure to tuck it on one side so that it doesn't fall off the tile when it is dry. Use a brush to fix it on the base of the tile and then just curl the petal on the first petal to give it some shape. Adjust it till you're happy with how the petal is looking. There are no rules in this. Just do as what pleases your mind. Once we are happy with the petal, we'll move on to the third petal of this bud. Now this bud has 4 petals to it. This is the third petal, and all these petals are curling towards the right, so we pick them on the plaster so that they curl towards the right, because we want to make all the 4 petals to seem like they're coming underneath and curling on one side for this particular bud. So once I'm happy with the petal, I put it on my palette and I transfer on my tile, tucking it under. Make sure the edge goes under the bud that you made already, so that the illusion, it gives an illusion as if it's coming from under the bud and curling on the bud. So the regular process that we have done till now, adjust it a little. Once I'm happy with my third petal, I make my fourth petal in the same way, and I'm placing it on the tile. Again, tuck it under the edge and curl it over the third petal. And we are done with our first bud. Now once I'm happy with how the bud is, I adjust the petals, and now it's time to make the spat. This is the part that covers the ovary of the iris, and I'm taking a light brown beige color and a chocolate brown color to make this. This one is an oval petal that we make, not a fan petal this time. So just pick the plaster as usual on both sides of the palette knife. I've taken a small diamond shape palette knife for this to make the oval petal. Once I'm happy with the first covering, I'll put it on my palette and I'll transfer it onto the tile. I'll place it on the tile so that it covers the base of the flower that we've just made, and curl it so that it seems as if it's covering the stem, the base of the flower. Quickly we go on to the second one, made it using the same method, an oval petal, and we place it. So I've put a tissue underneath my third petal to give it a curl, so that the base of the petal curls in this way that I'm showing you. Once the petal is dry, I'll remove the cotton. I now make the second bud on the tile, following the same process I followed in the first one. Once I'm happy with the buds, we move on to make the main flower, the one which is fully open. I have taken a very light shade for the center of the petal and 3 more shades of blue ranging from light to dark. We'll cover the plaster as well so that it doesn't dry up. And now we move to make the fan petal. The same process like we made the petals for the buds. Just picking the plaster on my knife on both the sides. First make a beautiful base. The better the base will be, the better the edge of the petal will be. Also make sure to cover the whole base of the knife. If you are not able to pick the plaster naturally, just pick it up with another knife and place the plaster on the base. So this is done so that we get a beautiful curve at the base of the petal. So once I'm happy with how my fan petal is looking and I'm happy with the width and the way it is looking, I'll go ahead and place it on the palette. So this is the area where I want to put it, and this is going to be our base petal, first petal. We are going to make this in 2 parts. This is the first half. Make sure to keep your knife clean all the time. This ensures clean petals. Also take a wet brush and smoothen out the hard lines on the petal to give it a natural look. I'll go ahead and make the second half of this petal now. I'll follow the same process like in the first one. First making a beautiful base. I'll just pick up the plaster and put it at the base to cover the base fully so that I get a nice curl at the base of the petal, and I'll follow the same process. Adjust the petal with your wet brush. And then once you're satisfied, just lift it up from the places you feel it needs a lift and give it a natural look. There's again no rule here. Do as you please. Once I'm happy with this petal, I'll proceed to make the second petal. So I'm going to make 2 more petals, one on the right side and one on the left side. Both the petals use the same process, fan petal. First we make a base and then take the fan as per the side, right or the left of the knife. Once I'm happy with how my fan petal has turned out, I'm going to place it onto the tile. I'm putting it on the left side first. So just lift one side edge of the petal and tuck it under. Once you're happy how the petal is looking, I'm going to place some cotton under this petal so that it stays upright and it retains its shape. And now I'm going to proceed to make the right side petal. So this petal is made in two parts. First part is a small fan petal which will be tucked under the central petal that I made, and then we'll continue making the right side of this two-part petal. So here I want the petal to extend on the left side of the knife. So I'm going to pick the plaster so that the fan petal extends on the left side of the knife. Once I'm happy with the petal, I'm going to tuck it under the central petal that I made using the transfer method. Just tuck it under just like so. Make sure you smudge one side of the petal so that it is in connection with the tile and it doesn't fall off when it is dried. Use a wet brush to shape it to your liking. Now we proceed to make the right side of this petal, again on a fan petal, and I have used more shades of white in this to give it a contrast from the base, because this one will be curling on top of the central petal. Just like so, place it on the tile, curl it, make sure to attach it with a wet plaster on the tile. Take your time to do this. Shape it with wet brush. Make sure that all the points of all the petals that you have made align in the center. And now we'll make the base petal. So our top flower is done. Now I'm going to make fan petals which are falling on the iris at the base. So I made this fan petal, but I made it on the wrong side. I should have made it on the right side. I made on the left, so I'm not wasting it. I'm just going to put it on a separate palette, keep it aside. I went ahead and made the right one, and now I'm going to put it on the base. After putting it on the base, I went ahead and used a wet brush to shape it, and after shaping, to retain the shape of it, it was falling down, I put a cotton underneath. Quickly I made the next fan petal, first half of it, and following the very same process, just carry on. This petal is made in two parts. First part is done, and now I'm making a fan which is extending towards the right to make the second half of this petal. Using a wet brush, I'm shaping the petal to my liking. There is no rule again in this. Do as you please. Clean the background. Now it's time to make the beard of the iris. This is called a beard, and I'm using a yellow plaster. Shape it nicely with your hand if you're not able to use, because it's so small. And this, just place it at the origin of the petals where they're coming out on the flower. I'm going to make 2 beads for the 2 falling leaves that are there on this iris. I forgot to mention I had to take the bud that I made in the second bud that I made out, because the leaves, the falling leaves were so big that they were covering the bud. So I just took it out and I have placed it again on the tile. Once we are done with our flower and both the buds, it's time to make the spathe of the iris again. We are making oval petal in this. Again, a light brown plaster with a dark brown plaster, combination of that. First spathe. Now depending on which side you're making, you'll make right and left oval petals and place them appropriately. Once I'm happy with what I have on the tile, it's time to refer to the diagram again and make the stems. It's a very simple process. Just take any tube, the green one, and make the stems. Once we are done with our stems, we come to the last part to make this tile, which is the leaves. I found them little challenging because they are longer than the palette knife I'm using. So I use a pointed palette knife for this, using the light brown, chocolate brown and olive green color to make these leaves. The process of making the leaves is quite simple. The challenge is just to make longer leaves. So we just make base for these kind of leaves and place it on the palette, give them shape, and this will be the last step to make this tile that we are making together. Just use a wet brush to give the shape to the leaf. Lift the edge up. The way I'm making the leaves for this iris is just make a base and put them on the palette and use transfer method to put them on the tile. Depending on how the leaf is bending, I'm making left and right edges and following a very simple process to make these leaves. Once I'm done with the leaf, I'm going to clean the background of the tile using a tissue, wet tissue. You can't avoid but get the background dirty sometimes. Just clean it up with a wet tissue. And we are on to making our last leaf, the last one which will complete our tile. Just making a base and following the same process. So I've finished this leaf, making another part in the same way, making a base, putting it on my palette and transferring it onto the tile. So with this last leaf that I'm putting on my tile, I finished this tile, Iris. And this was the chapter Iris in my journal. With this tile, I struggled to make the long leaves and learned to make fan petals with various color plasters. I am pleased at how this has turned out. I love sharing my journey with you all. Thank you so much for visiting my channel. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. I will see you all soon as I add new chapters to my journey. Till then, you take care and I will too. Bye for now.